Juan Tarot card reading, November 1st, 2013. These are the three cards that I picked. The Princess of Swords, Temperance, and the Moon, all upright. The Princess of Swords. Like the other sword people, the Princess of Swords is intellectually inclined, perceptive, and intuitive. She is again a keen observer who brings clarity and insight to situations in which she is involved. She is a forceful and self-determining young woman who ill tolerates injustice, weakness, and manipulation. She is probably not as secretive nor as hidden as some of the other sword people. In fact, she tends to express her insight quite forcibly at times. She has the same qualities as a keen observer of life and people that we see in the other sword courts. She's also a skilled arbitrator, having extensive negotiating skills and a ruthless cutting edge. This card is another of those that has quite a bad reputation with some tarot commentators. Maybe because of her tendency to tell things as she sees them regardless of the consequences. Yet, unless she is badly dignified, the woman represented by this card will usually be honest and frank. She cuts away the blubber that often surrounds difficult emotional matters and gets to the heart of things quickly and effectively. Generally, she is objective and rational in her approach to life. When this card comes up to represent a change of mood, however, we see the darker sides of the princess emerging. Then we are looking at a woman who is angry, emotionally distressed, and probably feeling vicious. She may then be spiteful and unkind, even heartless. Somebody in this kind of mood is often cruel, regularly seeking revenge and looking for trouble. When this princess rules the day, expect to come into contact with demanding or unfair situations. Use the clarity and insight offered by the card to cut away unnecessary rubbish, get behind the smoke screens, and see right to the heart of any situation that crosses your path. It is important to refuse to tolerate injustice or ill treatment. But when you deal with situations such as this, be sure that your own responses and behavior are moral and above board. Otherwise, you will find the princess's sword turning on you. Swords in general tend to suffer quite a bit of bad press, but this is based on a misunderstanding of the inner arcana ruling here. Swords are about living life to the full and appreciating its gifts. So long as you're doing your honest best, given the situation you are in at the time, you will not provoke the wrath of swords in your life. It is when you fail to live up to your standards, fail to treat others with the love and respect they deserve, that you will come into contact with so-called bad swords. So it's important to go for the high ground on a day ruled particularly by one of the courts. It will be a day in which things are reassessed, mulled over, straightened out. It may also be a day upon which unexpected and previously hidden things come to light. In this case, objectivity is the safest course of action, coupled with well thought out action. If you do not actually come into contact with a situation which demands you deal with it, be sure and spend a little time thinking about where you place importance. on morality and good standards. Consider the things you see as right and wrong, then check you're living up to those standards. Temperance. After the purging experience of death, it is necessary to rebuild and improve on that which has been left over. Now that old habits and beliefs are gone forever, new attitudes must be acquired to fill the gaps and make you whole again. This process of reconstruction and harmonization is shown by the card called Temperance. The verb to temper means to modify or strengthen by adding a new component to an existing substance or mixture. And this broad definition can be applied to many areas of your life, but all applications of temperance share the common theme of moderation and balance, culminating in the creation of a centered and well-rounded being. In most tarot decks, the red on white symbology first shown in the magician appears on the card in some form. The temperance of desire, red, with purity, white, is one of the most fundamental manifestations of this card, as is the reverse, purity with desire. The angel on the Rider-Waite deck, who wears a white robe and has red wings, is a perfect illustration of this. Purity of heart and mind gives you a solid base to fall back upon. But only through the desire for personal growth can you ever develop. The angel's white robes give him his basic form, but only through the control of his red wings comes his ability to fly. The act of temperance can also refer to the coming together of two distinct beings that must function as one. Obviously, this refers to relationships, but also to friendships, partnerships, and all kinds of compromises and committees. This can also take place on an internal level when you confront your deepest desires and your most irrational fears, and instead of getting rid of them, you incorporate them into yourself and grow stronger because of your temperance. If you throw away your shadow, it cannot help you, but by accepting it, you bring it under control. Perfect harmony with oneself is one of the two lessons of this card, and the one often seen in readings. Temperance also represents an appreciation of moderation through experience of the extremes. To use an analogy, to live through the darkest night and the brightest day, to appreciate both the twilight and the dawn, only through seeing and acknowledging both sides, the positive and the negative, can you integrate both into your personality. Another facet of the Temperance card is that you must not strive to become totally positive. Even though that might seem like a good goal, life seeks balance, and if you strive to be a totally positive being, you will be fighting the current all the way. Better to embrace moderation and go with the flow. The two situations in which temperance will most often appear are in the context of your relationships with others and with yourself. In the former case, a need for balance is often implied. Conflict can only be resolved through compromise and cooperation, and two people who both acknowledge this cannot be in conflict for long, because they always balance things out before they become problematic. Likewise, they enjoy the good times, but know they cannot last forever, and are not disappointed on darker days. If a relationship seems out of balance in any way, temperance must be taken as a sign to start fixing things before it gets too far out of balance and it is irrevocably destroyed. Often, though, before you can achieve harmony in your relationships with the people around you, you must make peace with yourself. Inner imbalances can often manifest in the physical world if they are not attended to. Whether or not the imbalance is a negative one, having a lifestyle that is optimistic to the point of believing yourself to be invincible will lead to problems. Maybe even more so than a lifestyle of pessimism and paranoia. Balance is best achieved through turning to the inner voice for guidance. Temperance is a card of health, and its appearance shows that your inner power is ready to heal you and make you stronger. The moon. It has been said many times that things are not always as they seem, and in the influence of the moon, this axiom is particularly true. In the moonlight, things that are benevolent during the day can suddenly seem dangerous and malicious. The very term moonlight is misleading because the moon does not emit light of its own. It simply reflects the light of the sun. Some people even claim to see the face of a man on the moon's cratered surface, though of course such a thing is impossible and only an illusion. A lot of people who look for the face on the moon know it cannot be there, but they look nonetheless. This card is one of the few major arcana with important animal symbolism and with no human figures in the majority of cases. The Rider-Waite card shows a wolf and a dog, two members of the same genus, but the first is wild and the second has been domesticated. Both of them are shown howling at the moon, however, and if a human were present in the same scene, he would probably be affected somehow too. Regardless of your place in the hierarchy of society or of evolution, you are still susceptible to illusions and deception. The moon shines the same light down on everyone, though what you see when that light reaches your eyes depends on who you are, not on what you see. In ancient religions, the moon deity was often a goddess with ties to female fertility because there was a visible correlation between the cycle of the moon and the female menstrual cycle. While this association is still valid, the moon of the tarot tends to deal with fertility of imagination rather than fertility of body. The crayfish shown regularly on moon cards is a sign of the emerging subconscious and its influence over the conscious mind. And for a mind closed to the messages of its subconscious, there can be a lot of illusion and deceptions to face. You can no longer tell what is real and what is just a manifestation of your fears and desires. The ordeal of the moon is the last challenge posed by the major arcana, in which you must travel in the dark, not knowing for sure if your path is the right one. There is no sunlight to guide you, no distant landmark, in the hills to direct your steps, no one to travel alongside. This is a journey that must be made alone, in darkness and without a map or a compass. You must learn to rely on your own inner light to lead you along the true path. Any hesitation, any doubt, and that will be extinguished forever. But if you believe, your light will shine forever as brightly as the sun that will inevitably rise once the night has passed. The moon's appearance in a reading almost always means that something is not as it appears to be, and that vigilance and perception will be necessary to find that which is hidden before it is too late. In a generally good reading, the moon shows that not all is as wonderful as you would think. You may be idealizing the situation and ignoring the fact that potential for failure exists among success. A negative reading that includes the moon often shows that you are letting your imagination run away with you, and that things are not nearly as bad as they seem. In both cases, you must open your eyes and see what is really going on. This card can also show times when you are not sure of your destination, or even of the path you are traveling, but you travel nonetheless. It's quite possible that you lost your way and are stumbling around in the dark. If you wait until the sun rises again, the path may have changed and the opportunity would have been lost. So what should you do? The moon is a card of intuition and psychic forces. So let go of your conscious mental blocks and let your intuition guide you. Not only will the way forward be revealed, but in a lot of cases you will learn lessons about yourself that will be valuable in later journeys.